Hello, I'm Faye.
And I'm Becky. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about maximising your potential as a leader and living your best life personally and professionally.
So join us on the M53 for our weekly chats, full of insights and inspiration, and of course, a cuppa and a butty.
Faye, it's called a brew. Thank you for joining us again. On this episode of the podcast, we are going to be covering one of my absolute favourite subjects, the when trap. Faye, tell us a bit more about what the when trap is.
Oh, the when trap, Becky. Well, this is when we release this podcast, everything will be amazing. And when I get that promotion, when I've lost 10 pounds in weight, when I get my new phone, when I've released my website, all these clients will come to me. When I get that promotion, I'll have a new car. Everything will be great. I'll feel fantastic. It's those feelings we're waiting to feel from things that are going to happen to us in our lives or things that we want. So it's that looking forward to getting something, looking forward to how we'll feel at that time. But there's a flip side to this, because when these things actually happen, we might get that feeling fleetingly, and then we're thinking again about when the next thing happens, then everything will be amazing. Does that happen to you, Becky?
Little bit.
A little bit.
Little bit. No, do you know what? And it used to, it certainly happened to me an awful lot more in the past. I did find myself falling into that space again around this podcast, actually. You know, that when we reach so many downloads, or when we reach a chart position, or when whatever, well, then it will have been a success, and then it will have been worth doing. And I really had to snap myself out of that. But, you know, the when trap, yeah, definitely used to get caught in that a lot in years gone by. And I see it happen with my clients all the time, you know, and often what comes up for them is when I get the next qualification. So when I've learnt something more, well, then I will be good enough, and then I will know enough. And I tend to work with quite a few younger people, and you know, when I get my first house, or when I'm in a serious relationship, everything will be fine and wonderful in the world. And I loved the way that you described it, Faye, when you said it's the feelings that we're waiting for, those feelings that we're waiting to feel. And we forget to let ourselves be happy in the here and now.
Yeah, and I think we've mentioned it before that this is actually a choice, but it's a really hard choice. When you're not in that feeling, it's hard to go from, if you're feeling lack for whatever reason, could be a very valid reason, or it could be not a valid reason. But whatever we're feeling that lack for, it can be very hard to then think, well, I can choose to feel happier about this. But we can. It's a brain process. By making that choice, we can do certain things that make us feel happier about it. But we don't live our lives thinking that. We don't go through our days thinking, well, how am I going to be happy today? We don't do it. We're more aware of it, I think, right now, because there's a lot about, social media, I think, has helped with this a little bit, in that we hear a lot, well, I do on my feeds, about gratitude and that positive psychology, if you like, about making that choice to be happier, about living in the now, about appreciating what we've got. But it's not a natural place we go to with our thoughts during the day. So if we are in task, if we are busy doing what we're doing, if we're busy living our lives, we might go to that place of, well, when this happens, that'll be great. You know, when I get my next promotion, I'll get a cleaner, and then I'll have a clean house, and I'll feel wonderful all the time. And, there's loads of different things that we can think about. But it is that feeling that we're wanting. That's what we're wanting. But it never comes, because when we've got that thing, and we do, because if we want something, we work to get it, we take that action to try and get it. It happens. But then we're on to the next thing that we're wanting. Now, that's human instinct. That's what we all do. We naturally grow and develop, but we're not taking the time to appreciate what we've got.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I nearly wet myself when you said that about the cleaner, because
I saw.
I loved my cleaner. And then my cleaner retired during lockdown. Obviously, she wasn't at my house during lockdown, but during lockdown, she retired. And do you know what? It's more been that I've just not got round to getting another one. But I do think, if I had a cleaner, someone who was coming in and doing this for me, my life would be wonderful again. Now, do not get me wrong. My cleaner was fantastic, and the woman was literally my right arm. But as much as I appreciated what she did at the time, I still had something else that I then, okay, well, I've got the cleaner now. When I get the next thing, so the cleaner one hit home for me, Faye, as it would have done if you'd have said, well, when I lose 10 pounds, then I can, because I'm always trying to lose 10 pounds. In fact, I'm always trying to lose more than 10 pounds. And when I do, the world will be a lovely, bright place, and I will be happy and I will enjoy it.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that one. When I lose £10, I'll have a professional photo shoot. They'll go on my website. It'll look amazing. Yeah.
What we like. Well, do you know what? What we like is human being. And that just illustrates that, we know things around the way our brain works. We know things around positive psychology. We are coaches and we are coached as well. But we're still human beings. So we still have the tendency to fall into the when trap as well. I would hope that because of the things that we know and the work that we do, we are able to recognize it and to help pull ourselves out of it again. But it's a trap, and we do still find ourselves in there.
So what are you hoping for, Becky, at the moment? Is it just the cleaner, or?
Do you know what? Honestly, Faye, I don't have anything at the minute. Hand on heart, now I've gotten over my podcast. Now I've gotten over that. I genuinely can't think of anything that I'm like, oh, well, when that thing comes, because I am feeling really grateful for the way that things are in the here and now. And that's one of the things to do to get yourself out of the when trap. To look at what you've got now, and to find and practice gratitude around those things. Now, I'll hold my hands up here. I'm not a person who journals, who I wouldn't say I specifically take time out of my day for finding gratitude, but I am a person that when I'm feeling up against it, I will try and look for the things that I am grateful for. And that really is one of those things that really helps me to get out of my when trap.
Yeah, I'd agree. And the other thing that I would add to that is about really feeling the feel. Feel the feel that comes to you when you've got that thing that you want. Celebrate it. Talk about this quite a lot. It's about celebrating your successes. Your successes don't have to be huge things. If Becky employed a new cleaner, I would say to her, celebrate that as a success, because, you've now fulfilled that, that little gap that you had that you really loved having. Then the cleaner retired and now you've got somebody else. Celebrate that, and lean into the feelings of that joy, that happiness, and learn to feel the happiness, because I think we're a little bit dumbed down to the feeling of happiness these days. I don't know if you agree with me. I don't know if it's just me thinking about it, but I think there's so much doom and gloom in the world, and there's so much drama, say for example on the telly that we like to watch, but it's drama and it always pulls on those strings that we have, about gloomy things happening. How often do we really have a belly laugh? How often do we sit down and watch the TV and really laugh at or it really enjoy from a heartfelt place what's actually on. I think it's a bit fewer and further between at the moment. Maybe that's just my world. I don't know.
Faye, being with you makes me laugh. Does that count? No, I do agree with you. I think you're right, and we've got to acknowledge what we've been through in this last 18 months as well. And I must admit, I found myself in the when trap well and truly then. So when schools open back up.
Oh gosh, yes.
When schools open back up. I think
that was justified though, Becky.
Well, I mean, probably, yeah. But I mean, it's a great example of it, isn't it?
Yeah, but yes. Yeah, sorry, I've just interrupted you. But actually, I did want to say there are times when actually we can justify the when trap. And I think homeschooling and the kids being at home, we were justified to say yes when schools open back up, because actually we don't want them going back to school to get COVID and be poorly. No, but we did want them to be back at school to be taught the right things in the right way by the right people. And I say that very personally because I'm not a good teacher to my child, at least. And for their social development. Oh my God. Well, my son's an only child. He had a lot of time. He loved being at home, I'll be honest. Bless his little heart. But he needed to be with his friends. He needed it. So sometimes these whens are justified. And we can look at them and think, what evidence is there that this when is justified? Or am I just being, do I need to appreciate what I've got now?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a really great point around when the when is justified. And homeschooling, definitely. For those of us who choose not to homeschool our children, who then found ourselves in that situation of, for me, I was trying to build a business and I had children running around at home and keep on top of everything. And we had a couple of periods of sort of full-on isolation as well, which was really, 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 really challenging times. And so, yes, when that was over, things would be easier. What about you? When have you found yourself in a when trap that actually, on reflection, was justified and was true?
Yeah, recently, as you know, I'm a qualified coach. I had a when I do my coach training, and it was completely and utterly justified. I did do coach training back in 2004, but it wasn't accredited, and it wasn't training like I've recently done, which is accredited ICF training. And I didn't actually do any coaching practice. So I learned a lot of tools, but didn't learn how to use them. So it was kind of ineffective, even though I didn't really realize that back at the time. So I am very qualified in what I do. I've got lots of pieces of paper and I can do my job very well. But working in the business world, working as a business advisor and consultant, I've got the qualifications to do that, but I found myself doing more and more coaching. And I didn't feel well equipped for some of the issues that were coming my way. In that, with coaching, we deal with the person. And when you're dealing with a person, well, everybody's different. So we've got to know how to deal with the person to move them forward, to coach them forward. And I just felt, I've got years of experience of doing this, but I felt like I needed the piece of paper to say, yeah, you're qualified to do this, actually, Faye. And so I enrolled in the coach training during lockdown so that I could get that qualification. And it was the best thing I did. And okay, I've got the piece of paper that says I can do what I was doing, but I've honed my skills so much more doing that training as well and having all that wonderful coaching practice. So my when I get this qualification, I feel that was completely and utterly justified. And it puts me in a different place psychologically, really, because I know that I'm working in a certain way, a way that's safe with my clients. And I didn't necessarily know that before. Scary.
Yeah, and if what I'm hearing is right, Faye, it wasn't about the piece of paper and the qualification. It was about what that actually gave you, and in terms of the experience and how much coaching practice you got to do, and your confidence around coaching, as opposed to sort of the piece of paper itself that says you are qualified.
Yeah, my confidence around coaching. I think that's that hits the nail on the head. There is no way in the world that I would call myself a coach prior to having this qualification. Even though I've done coach training before, I wasn't prepared to call myself a coach. And I work very much in the online world these days as well. And well, everyone's a coach in the online world, but they're not all qualified. And I wasn't going to be that person.
Yes. Yeah. And that's great. And it's really paid dividends, you know, the fact that you've actually gone and done the training. And so you're right. There are times when the when trap is justified. And I think that is a great first step for looking for getting yourself out of the when trap. Because it's all well and good us being here and talking about the when trap if we're not going to actually try and help you get yourself out of it. And so a great first place to start is, okay, how true is this?
I love that question.
Yeah, how true is this? So how true is it that when I get my new phone, I will be happy? Well, chances are it'll be really exciting and shiny and fun when you first get it. And you'll feel cool. And you'll feel like, you're on a par with your pals. But after not very long, you'll realise that it's really quite the same as your old phone. Doesn't really do much different. Maybe it operates a little bit faster. So the when trap there is maybe not quite so true. And, qualifications, especially when we're working with people in organisations or with people looking at career advancement, this is a really tricky one to navigate, I feel, with qualifications, that when I get the qualification or when I've done the next piece of study, then I will feel enough, and then I will know enough, and then I will be able to progress. And you know what? Often that ain't true either. Very often the qualification does not help people to feel that then they know enough. They still find themselves in that space of, but I need to know more. I need to know, actually, I don't quite know enough, and I don't know as much as them.
But there's a couple of reasons for that. I mean, qualifications are great, but so is experience. And if you've got both, then you might feel more that you know enough. But also, when we know that there's something to learn, we realise that there's so much more to learn. We think that when we do some learning, that's all we need to know. But that learning opens up a whole new Pandora's box almost of all these other things that we could learn. And then you do feel, oh, actually, I'm just, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn. I can put myself in that position because I absolutely love learning, but the more I learn, the less I feel I know sometimes, because I think, gosh, there's just so much to learn. And you'll always meet somebody who knows something that you don't. And that's great because you can learn from them. But as well, you might think, oh, you know this and I don't know it. So, oh no, what's my next course going to be? But yeah.
Do you know a quote that just popped to mind there, Faye, when you started talking about that? Adam Grant. I'm reading Adam Grant's book, Think Again. If you've not read it, run out and buy it now, because actually, seriously, I've read a lot of books over the past 18 months, and this is up there with one of the best. And he talks about in that if knowledge is power, then knowing what you don't know is wisdom. I love that. I absolutely love that. Almost turning the idea that the fact that there's things that you don't know into a bit of a positive.
Yeah,
because you know that you don't know them.
I know I don't know this.
Yeah, I know I don't know this. And you've always got a choice then. Is it actually something that you want to know more about or not? You know, for example, but I mean, that's a slight aside issue, but I love that idea. If knowledge is power, then knowing what you don't know is wisdom. Okay, so for getting out of the when trap, we've talked about evaluating it. How true is it that when this happens, I'm going to get this feeling that I'm looking for? Another thing to do is think about when you've been in a when trap before, and when you got the thing that you were waiting for, the magic when came along. How did you actually feel? Did you actually feel any better?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to finish this podcast off with a challenge. Yeah, I'm going to challenge you to feel the feels. I mentioned it earlier. Feel the feels. How do you want to feel? Make sure you feel it then. When you get the thing or before you get the thing, how can you feel that happiness, that joy, and try so hard to feel it every day.
Mm. And take the time to live in the present, in the here and now. Be grateful for what you have. Learn to give yourself a pat on the back for how far you have come already, for the things that you know, the things that you've done. And remember, if we're thinking about the words of Adam Grant, the things that we don't know, that's all right too, because we know we don't know them.
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. Thanks, Becky.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Meet Me on the M53. If you'd like to know more, you can see Becky at questforest.co.uk and Faye at fayeblakey.com.
Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode, and thank you to Wahoo Media for our production. We'll see you next time on the M53.
Safe travels.